Here are some aesthetic bodybuilding tips for beginners. So number one, don't cut unless you're fat. And how do you know if you're fat? Because you might have some body fat, you might not have visible abs right now. So what do I mean? Like right now, I'm bulking, and I am not cutting because my goal is to literally build mass. And I think for most people, that is the goal that you should have, is to strictly just build mass. And so the way you can really tell if you're actually fat is first just go outside when the sun's out and look at your shadow. If you look fat in your shadow, like you can literally see your flabs and you can't see any muscle definition, then you need to cut. But otherwise, you should not be cutting. You should be focusing on bulking and building as much mass as possible, especially if it's your first few years of lifting. All right, so tip number two, take your sets to maximum intensity and muscular failure. Most beginners don't know what failure is or maximum intensity is. Even guys who have trained like weightlifted before but never really focused on bodybuilding and building mass. Failure is like it's a lot of mental discipline more than it is really like the muscles and strength, because you can go to failure on lightweight too. But the key to failure is just mental fortitude and pushing yourself beyond your limits. And that's why I also get into tip number three, which is getting a training partner, because a lot of guys by ourselves, it's really hard to try to push ourselves when we're by ourselves because we don't feel safe. Like that's why in this video you can see right here I'm benching heavy to failure, but I have a spotter, because most of us won't be lifting as intensely as we can if we don't have a training partner. And plus, a training partner is just cool to have because like, it's extra motivation, and it boosts like the socialness of the gym, so you're not just in there being a little gym cell being all alone. Tip number four is to focus on the aesthetic muscles. So you probably don't know what the aesthetic muscles are because most bodybuilding content, just fitness content, never talks about them. So the aesthetic muscles, at least I'll name a few of them, are the abs, the neck, the upper trap, the lats, and the biceps, and there's a few more. But the point is, these are some of the muscles that people don't primarily focus on, and they end up focusing on other muscles like the front delts and the triceps, which of course you still want to target, you still want to hit, but you don't want to overdevelop them. Because if you ever see like people who get into bodybuilding and they say, oh, I don't want to get too bulky, and they point it to guys like modern bodybuilders that just look very stiff and very bulky, and they don't look as aesthetics. Most guys that go into the gym don't actually want to train to look like bodybuilders. They actually just want to train to have muscle mass and look aesthetic, which means like attractive to women and like respectable to other guys. Because that's the truth if we're being honest. Like, don't lie to yourself. That's why you want to go to the gym. That's why you want to build muscles, because you want to look impressive. You just want to look aesthetic, and it's not bad at all. You shouldn't be ashamed of that. And so there are aesthetic muscles that you're probably not focusing on. You're probably not focusing on aesthetic bodybuilding. And I get way into aesthetic bodybuilding. In the top link in my description, that is my aesthetic bodybuilding community, in which I'm working on a program. As the time of this video that I'm recording, I'm currently working on a program that will help completely beginners in any level of training to focus on building the aesthetic body and not just some massive bodybuilder body. But anyways, tip number five, find a routine and stick to it, especially for beginners. Please don't go switching from routine to routine and exercise every other day, every other week. Find one, and especially I, of course, recommend mine because it actually focuses more on the aesthetic muscles. But find a routine and just stick to it for at least 2 months. If you're brand new, don't go around, because there's so much fitness content. And the reason why I'm just saying you should stick to mine is, of course, because I actually just talk about the aesthetic muscles, and the way that I've laid it out and planned it out, it's just so much simpler than just other fitness content. And that's no shade to them, but just like I said, other fitness content is mostly talking about how to become like a big bodybuilder. It's from guys who are on steroids on stage, helping other guys to get the body that would get them to look like they're on steroids and on stage. And we just don't want to look like that. We just want to look good with our shirt off, or even look good with like a shirt on. So that's why I say my routine focuses on just building mass that looks good and not just massive. And my routine targets all those muscles. That's why, of course, I'm just biasing it. I really think you should check out my aesthetic bodybuilding routine. But that is a big mistake that beginners like to make, is that they see a routine and they see, oh, but this new study came, like especially the science-based guys, they see a new study like, oh, the study just came out, so they said that this actually version of the bicep curl is more targets this part of the head, and like, just, you're not even big enough to worry about that. Like Mike Mentzer used to say, build a 20-inch arm first before you actually start worrying about the details. Just stick to the basics, stick to the compound lifts. Like if your routine is having you do all these crazy isolated lat curl things, like just do the basics. do your bench press, do your squats, do, like in this video right here, you can see me doing lat pull downs right here, I'm doing barbell rows, but just stick to these basic compound lifts and you will build mass, and of course, if you're actually eating enough and recovering well. And so, my final tip here is to log every single workout session. So I don't have it in this video, but I do have a little journal in which I log every single exercise I do. And I'm saying every single exercise and every single rep, even if it's a little quarter rep, because that means I'm getting stronger than I did last time that I didn't do the quarter rep. So if you actually want to make sure you're progressing, of course you're going to see it in the mirror, of course you're going to see the fat go away, of course you're going to see the muscles build, but all that means nothing if your strength's not going up, because eventually you're going to plateau. You're going to hit those first newbie gains, but eventually you're going to plateau if you are not challenging yourself. So log every workout, and that is how, if you ever heard of the term progressive overload, that is how you will progressively overload, if you're making sure that you're actually trying to push yourself every single workout session, or else it's pointless if you're not trying to literally push yourself and advance, because getting stronger means getting bigger muscles. There's no way around that. You can't get bigger without getting stronger. Like this video right here, this is my first time ever moving 300 pounds on a barbell, and I did it today just because I'm like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. And that's a PR, and that would have never happened if I just didn't push myself and log my last session of deadlifts. But yeah, that's the main idea. Just progress, push yourself to maximum intensity, and push yourself every single time. Like, if there's one thing Greg Doucette says right, it's go harder than last time, train harder than last time, eat harder than last time, rest harder than last time. But yeah, if you want all this in it and all this and more, go and check the top link in my description for the aesthetic bodybuilding community.